You are on the rant couch where I rant about whatever my $10 a month plus patrons want me to rant about. You can get one of these by being one of those. This one's from Muse of Salzburg, who says, rant about buying books, movies, games, etc., but never watching, playing, or reading them. Reading manga and comics as soon as I buy them is easy because they are a very digestible form of story, but I've read maybe 3% of all the proper novels I own. But hey, they look nice on my shelf at least. Do you have any similar tendencies with anything you buy on a regular or semi-regular basis? So, in answering this, I want to cite an anecdote from a book called The Black Swan, which I did not finish. But it's a book about who cares what it's about. He tells this anecdote about a guy he knows with a huge library and how people always ask him, have you read all of these books? And he's like, what kind of stupid question is that? Of course not. I have all these books so I can read them. And, I think that people get into this weird mentality that, like, if you buy something, you have to immediately consume it and then it is no longer of worth, which is bizarre. Like, I mean, I guess that makes sense on the internet where, like, something comes through your feed on Twitter and it literally only matters for as long as it's in your feed or continuing to get retweets, But, like, if I own something, it sits on my shelf and I see it there every fucking day of my life for as long as it's there. I know what I have on my shelves. I know what is available to me in the event that I need something to read, Like, let's say that I have a bookshelf with 10 books I haven't read yet that I own. It would probably be irresponsible of me to go on buying books if I never read any of them. But let's say that I read like one book a year and I buy like 2 books a year. So I'm always ahead of myself, like buying more than I read. But then one year I decide that like I get way into reading and I now have access to all 10 of these books. Or what if one year I go bankrupt and I can't afford new books, but I still have these old ones that I didn't read yet. Like a book is an asset. A piece of physical media is meant to be an asset. And assets, they depreciate in value, and unless they become rare, unless people want them. And like, let's say DVDs, right? DVDs are probably only ever going to depreciate in value because the only people who care about them are going to be hardcore enthusiasts, and anything that's not extremely rare is going to be well spoken for amongst those enthusiasts. So your DVDs will likely be worthless because nobody wants them. They are an inferior way to consume the media that is that is on those discs, which is widely available, easily distributed. Unless like, let's say I lose internet connection and or all my hard drives burn out and all I have left is my PS2, like, then I will be glad I have my DVD collection. And that's why I don't sell anything I like, because I do think about, like, what are the possibilities of how this could come in handy one day? Or, what if one of these does somehow appreciate in value at some point and is, there might be a moment at which each item in this collection is worth selling. But there's potential benefit to me long term in having these things, even if I haven't consumed them, even if I don't really know what they are. I have tons of books that I own for 10 years and then I finally read them. It happens. It's just like, I don't know, people are so weird to me about needing to get everything done right away. And like, I think of my life in terms of my whole life. I still think about my childhood. I think about my teen years. I think about my 20s, as they've nearly passed. And, all of those periods, I can remember what I did. I can remember what the threads were that I left open that are there to pick up later. I know what books I bought. I know what, shit I read half of and thought was interesting and want to pick up again one day. But, like, what's the fucking rush? I have the book, maybe one day my house will burn down and all the books I never read will go up in flames. It'll all have been a huge fucking waste. But you know what? I'll be a lot more worried about my house burning down. So I think it's fair to have things you haven't consumed yet. Personally, I do guilt myself over it. I always have. I try to keep myself from buying too many new things if I haven't completed enough of the things I already own. Um, and that, through doing that, I've finally started making it through more, like, I've read almost all of my manga now because of the fact that I, like, tasked myself to not buy new manga until I read some of the ones I had. But because it is a little bit embarrassing when I buy something that I actively do want to read and just continually put it off for reasons I don't understand. But sometimes you might even get something like, I've had plenty of pieces of media where I picked it up, I didn't really enjoy it that much, and then I came back to it years later just because I remembered I had it, and I ended up liking it now because I was able to understand it. There are some things I regret that I sold because I think I could have appreciated them later. Plenty of things I sold that were genuinely dog shit, but you know. Um, so yeah, I think that there's definitely more to collecting than merely buying things so that you can consume them. But yeah,